Okay, Be'ezrat Hashem, Naaseh v'Natzliach. I want to welcome you to our brand new class of Igeret Teshuvah, deep inside learning of this section of the Tanya. As you can see, we're still ironing out the kinks. Be'ezrat Hashem, soon we'll have the poster, we'll have refreshments. But thank you so much for coming. Hashem v'ech otchem, sameach otchem. You should know that this is a class that was recommended or requested by Rav Israel Abergel Shlita, the son of Rav Yoram Michael Abergel, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. He's the one that felt that we should learn this book in this community, and we're following the words of the Rav. And as a matter of fact, the book that we're learning from is called Betzur Yarom. Betzur Yarom is a book that is actually a commentary on the Tanya by Rav Yoram Michael Abergel. It's only in Hebrew available right now. An English version will be available in the coming months or coming years for sure. But I can tell you, as a person who reads Hebrew, the rabbi spoon feeds you the Tanya. He literally just gives it to you piece by piece so easily. For me, it's made this class extremely easy to teach because half the time I'm reading it. Half the time I'm just reading what the Rav is saying, which is a lot easier. Also, the content is so deep that we're literally going to learn maybe one or two lines at a time, every class. So we're probably going to have about 200 lessons before we're done with this book. Or maybe less, or maybe more, who knows. But at the end of the day, and there's 4 more books. We're only learning Igeret Teshuvah. So I just wanted you to know that. I appreciate you coming here. Hashem v'ech otchem, sameach otchem. The fact that you are not only learn Torah, but you can see mamash in this group, you're making an effort. You're making an effort to become a better Jew, to learn more, to know more, to connect more. Hashem v'ech otchem, sameach otchem, v'yimaleh et kol mishot libchem letovah. So let's just do a quick review. As I see, there's some new faces that weren't here in our first class. And to the veterans, ones that have been here before. We had an introduction to Hasidut, but Baruch Hashem, the introduction also had a very good positive turnout. A lot of people saw it online, a lot of people saw it on Facebook, a lot of people listened to it on SoundCloud. So there's a lot of people that already saw the introduction. If you didn't, I highly recommend you go over there. It gives you a colorful introduction to Hasidut. And the background story and the mashal that was used, and I'll just give you a very quick review. The story goes of a king who has a sick son. And the only thing that can cure the son's sickness, because it's a fatal illness, he's going to die, is a special stone, a special jewel. And that special jewel, if you take it and you crush it, and you and you drink it or you digest it, then you can come back to life. You can be saved from this fatal illness. And this is the only way that could save this the king's son's life, is by taking this precious stone, crushing it, and giving it little by little for him to ingest in order to save his life. That was the mashal, that was the parable. The nimshal, the lesson was that big jewel was the jewel in Hashem's crown, the jewel of Hasidut. In Hashem's crown, there's one big jewel. It's the jewel of the Torah of Hasidut, which is what we're learning right now. And it has the healing power for the sickly generation of Ikvita de Mashiach. We are a sick generation, a generation that is about to die. And the only thing that could save us spiritually is if we get spoon-fed Hasidut. Little by little, we'll know how to survive this generation, as well as reach the ultimate goal of the coming of Mashiach. Hasidut has many branches. The one that we're learning is the Tanya, the one that is authored by the Alter Rebbe, which is Rabbi Shneur Zalman Miladi, and he has several sections to this book called Tanya. And the one that we're learning here is Igeret Teshuvah. Igeret Teshuvah is the third from 5 sections of the Tanya, and it deals specifically with the concept of teshuvah by way of Hasidut. And by way of the Hasidut of Chabad. So if you're familiar with Chabad, again, I urge you to go back and learn and listen to the introduction. It tells you the whole lineage of how we got here. This particular book, Igeret Teshuvah, is even considered a Tanya Katan, a small version of the Tanya. And we spoke also about all the loftiness of learning Tanya, hearing Tanya, or even just reading a word or a letter from the Tanya and its effects. In this Igeret Teshuvah, there's 10 chapters. The first 3 chapters talk about the different details of doing the mitzvah Teshuvah by way of nigle, meaning a common, ordinary type of Teshuvah process will be the first 3 chapters. After that, the next 5 chapters, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, and Ched, the next 5 chapters are going to be chapters that deal of how to do Teshuvah through the channel, through the lens of Hasidut. And then the last 4 chapters are going to be how to do Teshuvah with Nigle and Hasidut interlaced together. On this learning of Igeret Teshuvah, thank you, the Rebbe says, the Lubavitcher Rebbe chimed in to give us an idea, to give us an understanding of what happens when you learn Igeret Teshuvah. He says, היות שהקדוש ברוך הוא עשה בדורנו שיהודים לא יוכלו להתענות כחלק מתיקוני התשובה. He says there's going to be a time, there's going to be a generation, there's going to be people that are going to need to go through a teshuvah process, but they're not going to be able to go through the suffering, to the afflictions. They're not going to be able to torment themselves in the way that yesteryears, older generations used to do a teshuvah process. However, על ידי לימודי התורה בעניינים האלה באופן של עסק ואפילו באופן של קריאה, so even if you just toil, you just partake, you just learning the book, or even just by reading the book, נחשב הדבר כאילו האדם התענה כל מספרי הצומות ופרשים בתיקוני התשובה מהאריזל. It counts for him as if the person did all the fasts, all the tikkunim, all the tormenting that he needs to do, like the way that they're explained and detailed in the book, in the tikkunim of the Arizal. So imagine, the Arizal, which we think so highly of, so lofty, and he's giving us such a pathway of teshuvah, and it involves rolling in snow, and not eating for X amount of days, sometimes for hundreds of days, and all these different things that you have to go through in order to do a proper teshuvah. The Lubavitcher Rebbe says, all that, I can get it for you by just reading, by just listening, by just toiling, just trying to learn. You get a teshuvah, you get the same result. I can tell you that is a very big claim. That is a very, very big claim. Not only is it a very big claim, but it also gives us the ability to feel that we're doing something big over here. Furthermore, it says, I want to maybe say something personal over here. You should know that I've only been reading this book literally since the Rav gave it to us about a month ago. And something clicked in my brain, something clicked in my head, and I want to share it with you. Sometimes we think that teshuvah is exclusive to Elul and to Tishrei. We think that the whole teshuvah process, the whole process of soul searching, repenting, is something that we leave all for the rest of the year. Meaning it's a wild, wild west for 11 months, and in Elul, bang on the chest and let's do. But in reality, what you realize, that teshuvah is a lifestyle. When you're able to keep yourself in check, or even to have that mindset every day, it's different. Meaning, the whole idea of teshuvah, I've been reading it day after day after day after day. I'm walking with the concept of teshuvah daily. My actions are different. My thoughts are different. Because teshuvah is on my mind. It's not something that I just deal with on Elul, something that is just dealt with on a wholesale level, on a large level at the end of the year or the beginning of the year. It's something that, here we are, we're in we're in Tevet, and we're talking about Teshuvah, which is going to be incredible, because I wonder what our Elul is going to look like this year. I wonder what our, not only Elul, what our Teshuvah process will be this year. Nevertheless, what it's going to be like when Teshuvah is on your mind all the time, as opposed to just once a year. So let's begin. Baruch Hashem, last week we started the first few lines, but the basic layout of Igeret Teshuvah and the two layers of the Teshuvah process is what I want to share with you. Maybe at one point we'll have these books for you guys to follow along for the Hebrew speakers, but for right now, I'll cherry pick all the best parts from the learning. Apparently, when it comes to Teshuvah, according to Baal Tanya, there's two types. There's Teshuvah de Tata and there's Teshuvah de Le'ela, a lower level and a higher level. He divides his explanation according to the levels. We'll start with the first one. It says, Teshuvah Tata'a, the lower level Teshuvah, is when you're dealing with a Teshuvah process of lower level things. Things that are easy. Things that are, as they call it, Heseg Yad, meaning they're low-hanging fruit. Something that is reachable, attainable, easy to succeed. The Teshuvah Tata'a is an easy Teshuvah process to achieve. כלומר, שיש מכל השישה להבין שבתורה, ואחר כך ישתדל ותמיד צריכים כל רמ"ח מצוות עשה באופן מדויק מודע ביותר, על פי ההלכה והחסידות, עד היכן שידו יוכל. Meaning, a regular Joe, a regular person, what is your job as a Jew? Your job as a Jew is to perform the 248 positive commandments and stay away from the 365 negative commandments. That's your role. That's what you have to do. However, when it comes to Teshuvah Tata'a, that is your role. Focus on that. Focus on the 248 do's and 365 don'ts. However, once you start to do Teshuvah on that, as you do that spiritual audit of yourself at the end of every year, or as is recommended at the end of every night, Kriyat Shema al Amitah is something that it's a Teshuvah process that you do on the day. Before you do Shema Yisrael, you sit down on a chair and you think for a couple of minutes, how was my day? Did I pray properly? Did I learn properly? Did I do any acts of kindness? Did I do any chesed? How was I with my wife? How was I with my kids? How was I with my co-workers? How was I with my employees? How was I with the world? How was my interaction with God today? How was my interaction with the world today? You're supposed to have that. And then you're supposed to highlight your successes and your failures. Your successes, you carry them over to the next day. Your failures is what you do your teshuvah on. And you're supposed to classify your failures according to, did I fail on 248 positive commandments, or did I fail on 365 negative commandments? Where do they get filed under? Where is it? Because it's very important to know this. And this is beautiful because we're really, really going to get a lot better at understanding God and the Torah and the mitzvot. Do you know which ones are 248 and which ones are 365? Do you have a list? Do you walk around what's a mitzvah ta'aseh and what's mitzvah lo ta'aseh? Because it does require a different type of teshuvah, as we'll learn today. So the teshuvah tata'a is when you're dealing with the 248 and 365. After a few years of doing teshuvah at such a level, you get really good at it. You might be also very successful. So at one point you have to graduate from this level. Meaning this teshuvah level of teshuvah tata'a is not going to serve you well for many years. At one point, you're going to become a better version of yourself. You're going to become a better Jew. And you're going to need a higher level of a teshuvah process. And that's going to be called teshuvah ila'ah. That becomes the higher level teshuvah ila'ah, which basically means a higher level teshuvah process, a higher level repentance. And what does that deal with? That is when you're doing teshuvah for leshlimut tikkun hanefesh. When you're trying to take your nefesh, your soul, and to rectify the soul. Not to rectify the actions. Rectifying the actions is teshuvah TAH. Teshuvah ila'ah is when you're concerned about the soul. How? To return it to the Creator the way that you received it. להשיבה אל בוראו לאחר איכות ימים כפי אשר ניתנה לו בעת לידתו. To return the soul to God the same way you got it on day one. After 120 years, to be able to give God the soul the same way, clean, clear, with no sin, the same way you got it on day one. Could you imagine? That is teshuvah ila'ah. So obviously, we're not at that level where we're trying to give the soul back the way we got it. We're so far from it. I'm speaking for myself. If there's any pros in the crowd, please, let's switch seats, right? But if we're going to be real with one another, we're going to understand that we're obviously at teshuvah TAH. Let's learn the first level, and when we get really good, let's graduate to TAH. But that's what Igeret Teshuvah is basically dealing with. That there are two pathways to teshuvah. The first one is dealing with the rectification of 248 positive and 365 negative commandments. And after a while, when you get really good at it, then it says, okay, now it's how do I give my neshama back to Kadosh Baruch Hu the way that He gave it to me. And that is a whole different avodah. That's a whole different service of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. That was last week. This week, we're going to learn 2 sentences of Igeret Teshuvah. We're literally going to dissect a tremendous amount of information and get to the nitty-gritty details of the teshuvah process. This is like the deep mechanics of teshuvah. And what I love about this is because when you first get into the religion, you hear the word teshuvah. It's so generic. It's like emunah, like Baruch Hashem, it's like one of these words that people throw around. But when you get deeper and deeper and deeper, and you're like peel off all the layers of teshuvah and you understand what it is and how it works, it's a tremendous concept. What I'm saying is that the way that the rabbi is unpacking it for us by way of Igeret Teshuvah is even deeper. Meaning, even if you think you're a pro, you've been listening to teshuvah classes for the past decade or 20 years of your life, and you know how teshuvah works, it's nothing close to the way it's going to be explained to you in the next few lessons, let alone once we finish with this book. The Tanya is very cryptic at places, and if it's not taught to you, you can literally just read it and think you understand, and you move on. But it's very, very, very far from something that you can just read one sentence and move on. You read one sentence and you can literally park yourself there for a week before you can really understand. It's not so simple. He'll mention a place in the Gemara, and if you don't go to see that page, you'll miss a lot. You'll miss the depth, and you'll miss a lot of the details. So we will not do broad strokes tonight, the way that I typically like to do in the beginning of a class. There's no broad strokes in this class. We're getting into the details. We're going to drill down to understand how to really get into the nitty-gritty of the teshuvah process. Even on this basic level of teshuvah del tata, which we think is a basic level, it's far from basic. Let's get started. Perek Aleph Tanya. It says, Tanya, Besof Yoma, Shlosha Cheluke Kapara Hem, Beteshuvah Al Kol Echad. I'll always give you the BOGO, buy one, get one. You come here for Tanya, you're going to get a lesson in Hebrew. We're going to learn the Hebrew explanation of the words before we go into the commentary and actually understanding. It says Tanya, Besof Yoma. When it says in the end of Yoma, what is Yoma? Yoma is a Masechet. It's a Gemara. So the rabbi here is telling us in the end of this Masechet Yoma in the Gemara, it talks about Shlosha Chiluke Kapara, that there are 3 sections to atonement. V'tshuva im kol echad. And each one of this atonement is accompanied by the process of teshuvah. We've officially just learned one line in Tanya. Just alone over here, you don't know what's going on in the Shamayim. Now let's go deeper. It says, when it says in the Gemara, in Masechet Yoma, that there are shlosha chilukei kaparahem, that there are 3 different types of kapara. Klomar, what are they? Adam shechata Hashem, somebody who sinned to God. Kaimim lefanav shlosha sugim shel kapara, a person who made a sin in front of God, he's got 3 options for atonement. Ke'en shlosha maslulim, as if there are 3 highways. Yechol letaken ma shekilkel. However, v'tshuva im kol echad. But what's common, a common thread, the common denominator with these 3 different pathways, each one has teshuvah in kol echad ve'echad. Any which way that you want to do an atonement must have a teshuvah process with it. Like I said, when the rabbi mentions a Gemara, you don't want to say, okay, the rabbi said over there, they talk about atonement, and fine, I'll take his word. I guess there's something big over there. No. We're going to go over there and let's learn it. Let's go to Yoma. Let's go to Masechet Yoma. Let's go to the Gemara and let's see what it actually says over there. It says, Sha'ar Rabbi Matya ben Harash et Rabbi. By the way, right now we're learning Sidna De'ara. Sidna De'ara is Rabbi Yisrael Abergel's commentary on his father's commentary of the Tanya. So we're having over here the father and the son, which is beautiful. שאל רבי מתיה בן חרש את רבי אלעזר בן עזריה ברומי, האם שמעת 4 חילוקי כפרה שהיה רבי ישמעאל דורש? So we have over here a couple of Tanaic rabbis. They're in a conversation, and one of them, Rabbi Matya ben Cheresh, is asking Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. He says, I know that there's 4 different pathways for atonement that Rabbi Ishmael used to talk about it. Are you familiar with them? So Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah answers them. He says, yes, Shloshahen, there's 3. V'tshuva im kol echad ve'echad. And each one has to have the process of repentance, teshuvah, accompanying it. What are they? Here are the 3 pathways. Avar al mitzvat aseh v'shav teshuvah. If somebody transgressed on a positive commandment and he did teshuvah, and no zaz misham ad shemochlim lo miyad, he immediately gets atoned. That very moment. Shene'emar shuvu banim shovavim arapeh meshuvotechem. They even give us the pasuk to back us up, that Hashem tells the Jewish people, Im tashuvu b'teshuvah miyad arapeh chatetchem. Immediately I'm going to heal your sins. So we see that there are sins that are being atoned immediately. Again, this is like nuclear mushroom clouds. I never knew this. I thought that teshuvah is only one Elul. Teshuvah Kippur. That's why everything, right? They all get into one big bundle of sins. You bring it into the sack, into court, and then you deal with that. No. Right here it's revealed to us when there's a mitzvat aseh, a positive commandment that somebody transgressed, but now he wants to do teshuvah. That very moment when he does teshuvah, done. Immediate forgiveness. Pathway 1. Pathway 2. אבל מצוות לא תעשה ועשה תשובה תולה. He says a person that now transgresses a negative commandment, because we said it's going to be different. The teshuvah for mitzvah aseh is different from Teshuvah Mitzvot Lo Ta'aseh. And we'll get to know them better, but we can see already what an unbelievable growth process from minute to minute in understanding. Avarat Mitzvot Lo Ta'aseh, Teshuvah Tola, meaning what? That you are doing a Teshuvah process, but the Teshuvah is not immediate. You're not forgiven immediately. Something else has to happen. What has to happen? התשובה שעושה מעכבת את הפורענות שעתידה לבוא אליו. He says what happens when somebody transgresses a mitzvah lo ta'aseh, a positive commandment. What happens? He does teshuvah. What does the teshuvah do? The teshuvah delays the punishment. That's what it does. It only delays the punishment. שעתידה לבוא עליו. ויום הכיפורים מכפר על האדם. But then he goes to Yom Kippur, and Yom Kippur atones for him. And we have a pasuk that says, כי ביום הזה יכפר עליכם מכל חטאותכם. On Yom Kippur it says it's a day that you're forgiven for all the sins. משמע שיש עבירות שצריכים יום כיפורים כדי לכפר. So, to summarize, when you transgress on a negative commandment, you do teshuvah. The teshuvah delays the punishment, and if you're able to do a teshuvah process that is good enough, once you get to Yom Kippur wipes it out. So you have a delay and a wipe out. You have a delay on the punishment, and Yom Kippur wipes out the sin with that teshuvah process. Third pathway. עבר על מצוות שחייבים עליהם כריתות. So there are sins that people do sometimes that require spiritual excommunication. Spiritual excommunication, for example, if somebody ate on Yom Kippur, right? Or somebody who desecrates Shabbat. Those are people that are karet, spiritually excommunicated. It's like, imagine their connection to God is snapped. So what happens to that guy? He ate on Yom Kippur. He didn't keep Shabbat. He was off the derech. Now he wants to come back. What do we do? So there's a way back to that. He does teshuvah, and his process is longer. A person who has karet, his process is longer. How much longer? 1. Teshuvah v'yom kippurim tolin, meaning the teshuvah delays the punishment. He has to wait for Yom Kippurim to come, and just the day passing over him atones for the sin. V'yisurim memarkim. However, he has another element of atonement, which he has to go through hardships, afflictions. So now there's 3. Somebody who transgressed the karet and does teshuvah, he has a 3-level process before he's forgiven. What's the 3-level process? First, the teshuvah delays the punishment. Second thing, he has to wait for Yom Kippur. Just the day Yom Kippur passing over him is going to atone, but he also has to suffer. He also has to have afflictions. And once he goes through all those 3, then that karet is forgiven. However, I'm just going to throw this in here before we continue. There's a sin that it's unforgivable. What's the biggest sin a person can do? Chilul Hashem. Desecrating the name of God, which is, by the way, nowadays, it's so easy to fall for this. You know, you go to the supermarket and you have a kippah on your head, you're representing a Jew. You can't go over there and act like a monkey. That's a Chilul Hashem. In a second, we'll see what happens. You can't drive disrespectfully on the highway. They look into the person. Who's driving like a madman? They see a guy with a kippah. You can't be a representative of the Jewish nation, and when the Gentiles look at you, it's like, oh my God, look at that bad Jew. Chas v'shalom, which we can see sometimes in certain professions, in certain industries, where sometimes the Jewish name is sullied by certain Jews. It's considered Chilul Hashem. What happens when the person does Chilul Hashem? which is, by the way, also somebody who sins and makes other people sin. That's another Chilul Hashem. Chote umachti. That's a big one. En lo koach beteshuvah litlot. Meaning, his teshuvah is not going to delay the punishment. Yom Kippurim is not going to help him. Afflictions are not going to clean him up. ואין כוח לשאול לטעות, לא יום כיפור מכפר, לא ביצורים ריק, אלא כולן תולין ומטען רקק. The only thing that makes him, that atones Chilul Hashem, is a person's death. When he dies, it's forgiven. Meaning, a person did Chilul Hashem, he says, Hashem, I'm sorry. Thank you for the teshuvah. But, Chilul Hashem, you can't delay the punishment. You can't, Yom Kippur doesn't help on Chilul Hashem. Afflictions you're going to get, but they're still not going to go, they're not going to take away from your debt. The only thing that's going to make Chilul Hashem go away is a person's day of dying, when he dies. So to summarize, we just learned one line of Tanya, and we just learned one section of what the rabbi was talking about in Masechet Yomah, and we came to understand 4 things. Number 1, when a person does mitzvat aseh v'asat teshuvah, somebody did a positive commandment and he did immediate teshuvah, he gets immediate forgiveness. Then we move to the second level, mitzvat lo ta'aseh v'shav, somebody who transgressed a negative commandment and he did a teshuvah process. What happens? The teshuvah process offers him a delay on the punishment, and Yom Kippur atones for the sin. Third level, when somebody does a high-level crime, a high-level transgression, a karet, a spiritual excommunication, like we said, somebody who eats on Kippur, somebody who doesn't keep Shabbat, and he does teshuvah, well, it's not going to help him. Yom Kippur is not, it's not going to delay. Yom Kippur is not going to atone. Afflictions are going to happen. The only time, the teshuvah process and Yom Kippur, teshuvah process delays. Yom Kippur is the punishment, but he also has to suffer afflictions. My apology. Chilul Hashem, the one that sins and also makes other sins. Teshuvah does not delay the punishment. Yom Kippur does not atone. Afflictions don't help. All 3 combined delay the punishment, but only death atones for Chilul Hashem. Everybody understands the first line of Igeret Teshuvah? Simple? Not so simple. A lot of layers. But who knew that this is a Teshuvah process? Who knew? I thought it was all one generic bag that you show up, you bang on your chest, Hashem forgive me. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? It's not that simple. There's so much more. And this is the lower level teshuvah. Imagine when we get to the part of to fix the neshama. Oh, how exciting to look forward to. Okay, let's go now to the second line, because tonight we're only going to learn 2 lines, okay? Because I also feel it's a lot of information. It's like a cup of water. If you put too much water, at the end what happens? It just spills. Nothing's going to hold. We have to learn enough to hold. Okay? So this is not going to be one of those 2-hour classes that we typically do, or hour and a half. I want to keep it to 45 minutes to an hour. And I typically am not going to do a review of the previous class unless it's really necessary. Just to give everyone a feel of what to expect coming up. Okay, second line of Tanya. Avar al mitzvat aseh v'shav. A person that transgressed over a positive commandment and did teshuvah. Oh no, I'm sorry. Oh yes, it is. Avar mitzvat aseh v'shav. When a person transgresses on mitzvat aseh v'shav, and no zaz misham ad shemochlim lo. He's not going to he's going to be forgiven immediately. אבל מצוות עשה אבל מצוות לא תעשה, however, when a person transgresses on a negative commandment, ושב, and he returns, תשובה תולה ויום הכיפורים מכפר. תשובה delays, and Yom Kippur is going to atone. So even though that I gave you all the details, all the information, here is the beautiful part. We're going back, and we're going to learn. Now you're going to understand Rabbi Yoram Michael Abergel Zatzal. Now you're really going to appreciate the learning, because what the rabbi is going to tell us is going to take real life scenarios and plug it into the Tanya. You don't have to imagine anymore. You don't have to use your imagination. I've given you some ideas of what it is, right? But it's still pretty vague, right? What's a mitzvah taseh? What's a mitzvah lo taseh? What am I watching out for? When do I do this? When do I do that? What? The rabbi is going to spoon feed us to understand very clearly what it is. And this is the beauty of this lesson. Let's begin. I'll give some examples for men, and Baruch Hashem, we have some examples for women as well. Avar al mitzvot aseh. So when somebody transgresses on a positive commandment, and obviously we have 248, he's not going to list all 248. Maybe at one point I'll try to find the list and we could share it just to have it as a reference point and to have it on file, or even to just read it so we can be more in the know. But he gives some examples over here. לא שם לב ועבר וביטל למשל ברכת המזון, או שכח להתפלל, או להניח תפילין, או קריאת שמע בעונתה. He says, you know what's a person that transgresses over a positive commandment? Maybe he didn't pay attention, he forgot to bless on the food. Or maybe he forgot to pray that day. Or maybe he forgot to put on tefillin. Or maybe he forgot to read Kriyat Shema in its proper time, because you know Shema has specific times in the day and specific times in the night. Maybe those are the sins that he did. So now he says, how do I go? How did I eat without blessing? I gotta do teshuvah. How did I miss Kriyat Shema of Arvit? Oh my God, I have to do teshuvah. I can't do it. There's no way that happens again. I can't believe a day went without tefillin. I made a sin. I didn't put tefillin on today. What's the teshuvah? He says, the guy gets a lot of tsar. He gets a lot of sorrow. He says, oh my God, how did I perform this mitzvah? Oh, kama chaval. לא בירכתי ברכת המזון, לא קריאת שמע, איך אתקן את זה? He says, how am I going to rectify this? He says, from now on, I'm going to be makpid, I'm going to be very particular about this specific mitzvah. Because I missed it, that's why I'm going to be particular about it. And not only that, I'll be so particular to not ever miss it again. Meaning, if somebody catches himself not putting on tefillin, that's it. From that moment, he's saying, my teshuvah, so never miss it. A person sees that he ate and he didn't do birkat hamazon, he says, you know what, from now on, I'm going to be very particular. I'm going to have a lot of dedication to make sure that there's no way that I'm eating without blessing birkat hamazon. He says, and I'm never going to create all these things that, you know what, I'm in a rush. Maybe if I take a piece of bread with me, I'll make a blessing in the car, or I'll make a blessing somewhere else. Or you know what, I'm not going to pray over here, but I'm sure I'll find the Chabad. You know, start to talk yourself out of these things. And don't put yourself in those situations. Make sure that you're on top of it. And he says sometimes these mitzvot aseh that a person transgresses, sometimes it's not because he remembers that he did something wrong. Sometimes a person is like a walking zombie. He's like, he's like walking and he's doing nothing. He doesn't understand. He actually needs to walk into a class and the rabbi has to wake him up. He teaches them the greatness of the mitzvah tefillin, the greatness of Shema, saying Shema at its appropriate time, or what it means to steal from a Kadosh Baruch Hu if you don't bless before and after when you eat. And all of a sudden the guy wakes up. Oh my God, I've been stealing from God this whole time. Oh my God, I didn't do mitzvah aseh of Shema in the morning and mitzvah aseh of Shema at night. How could this be? He heard a good lecture and now he's up. He woke up, meaning Sometimes you can wake up by yourself because you're a good person, you're doing it and you missed it. I gotta get better. Or sometimes the guy's just a walking zombie and somebody else has to wake him up. You heard a class, or you heard a lecture, and the things enter the heart, and he starts to say, "My yeti, what's going to be with me? What am I seriously this disconnected that I'm transgressing? That I go to work without putting on tefillin? That I eat without blessing? What's going to be at the end when I have to give an accounting for my soul to HaKadosh Baruch Hu?" So, sometimes people come and they give the biggest excuse of why they can't perform mitzvot. Oh, you know why I can't come to minyan in the morning? I have work. You know why I can't bless on Birkat Hamazon? I'm busy. I don't have time. Rabbi Yoram says over here, you know how many people have been going to work? 6,000 years people are going to work and the work never finishes. He said, everybody's working. It's okay. If you have to wake up earlier, go to nets. You don't have pressure on time. 5 more minutes before, 5 minutes. Manage your time. Time management is key. You can still perform mitzvot and live a life. Meaning, the people always tell you, Parnasah, I can't. I have to be there at 7. I have to leave there at 10. The rabbi says, the work is never going to end. So don't accept that as an excuse. However, we see over here that a person can wake up himself and come back and he gets an immediate teshuvah. I'll give you some examples for the women. There's a time that maybe a woman for a very long time didn't light Shabbat candles, which is a real reality. Like it was amazing during the war. You see women calling, "I've never done this before." Imagine like Jewish women saying, "I never lit Shabbat candles." So what does that mean? 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Imagine somebody not doing the mitzvah for a very long time. It's mitzvat aseh miderabanan. This is a positive commandment, a rabbinical obligation. And then what happens? This woman one day, some way, somehow, finds herself in shul one day, and she hears the lecture from the Rebbitzin, or she hears the ladies talking about their beautiful candelabra that they use for Shabbat, and all of a sudden she gets this unbelievable desire to perform this mitzvah, or the rabbi said something about the loftiness of this mitzvah, and she can't believe that her entire life as a Jew, she missed out on lighting Shabbat candles. So what does she say? She says, "Bli neder ma'achshav, ani אהיה זריזה יותר כל יום שישי עד השעה 3 בצהריים, אני כמו מוכנה לשבת אחרי כל ההכנות, ואדליק נרות בנחת ובשמחה." She says, you know what? I'm going to become better. Not only am I going to light candles, but by 3 o'clock, the house is done, the house is clean, the cooking is done, everybody is showered, and I'm going to light the candles with peace and quiet and with kavanah. Meaning what? She accepted upon herself to do something that she transgressed on. What happens? What happens to that woman? She's forgiven what? Immediately. From that moment, mitzvat aseh, that you do teshuvah, miyad, it's answered. Mitzvat aseh, tamid efshar lakum sadeh, kol ze nikah v'shav. So you can see that a lot of the things that we've done, we can atone for them immediately on the spot. It's such a good relief that there's certain things that you can really get rid of immediately.
Sharone, what about tefillin?
Tefillin? Yeah. It's mitzvah taseh. Mitzvah taseh is tefillin also. This next part is unbelievable. There's certain things that are very hard to achieve completely. One of the things that we try to achieve completely are hinted in the word etrog. We try to do emunah shelema, teshuvah shelema, refuah shelema, and geula shelema. Those are 4 things that we want to be complete. We want our emunah to be complete. We want our teshuvah to be complete. We want our healing to be complete. And we want our redemption to be complete. Complete meaning you can't beat cancer halfway. You want a complete healing from cancer, right? You can't believe in Hashem a little bit. You need emunah shelema, full belief. Also Geulah, you can't be redeemed halfway. A redemption is a full redemption. So these are the things that we need completely. One of the things that's mentioned is the teshuvah. Teshuvah can't be halfway, right? You can't say, I'm never going to do this, and you do it sometimes. That's not a real teshuvah, it's a fake teshuvah, right? You need teshuvah shelema. So to achieve a teshuvah shelema is a big, big deal. Look at this next part that the Rav says. Eno zaz misham ad shel mochlim lo. He says that he's forgiven immediately on the spot. Klomar, אדם שלא קיים מצוות עשה, לא צריך לחכות עד יום הכיפורים בשביל שהשם יכפר לו. He says, the person that transgressed on a positive commandment does not need to wait to Yom Kippur to be forgiven. אלא, מאותו רגע שהוא התחרט והחליט שזה לא יקרה לו יותר, in that moment that he regretted it and made a proper teshuvah and made a decision that this will not happen to me again. I will not transgress on this positive commandment one more time. Tiken et hakol. He fixed everything. V'zeh nikra teshuvah shelema. A complete teshuvah. A person that does teshuvah on mitzvot aseh that he transgressed on, and it's a genuine teshuvah, it's considered a teshuvah shelema. One of the hardest things to achieve is achievable in this process. This was also another, because you always feel like, is my teshuvah shelema? If I've ever accomplished a teshuvah shelema? The mechanics here show us how to do it. The formula here shows us yes, and it's immediate, and it's considered complete. Teshuvah on a positive commandment is immediate and is complete. I'm telling you, I've been learning teshuvah for years. This is mind-blowing. To hear this, to know this, to understand like this, it's mind-blowing. This is a big, big chidush. It sharpens your mind. You understand more, and knowledge is power. Like I really understand now teshuvah better. It's very exciting. It's very exciting. It's not for you, it's for me. It continues to say, okay, so now let's put mitzvot aseh on a shelf. Finished. We just learned it in depth. Let's move on to the second one. Mitzvot lo ta'aseh, negative commandments. How does that work? What's the mechanics there? אדם שעשה פעולה של איסור שגרמה לפגם בנפש האלוקית שלו בשורש שלה למעלה. Here we go. The mega difference, the major difference between a positive commandment and a negative commandment is a positive commandment is something that is atonable and is forgivable and is immediate and is complete. But when you transgress on a lo ta'aseh, it damages the soul. It's deeper. It says, Garma pgam lanefesh elokit. A person that transgresses on a negative commandment, it damages the godly soul that's inside of us. Sheshorish shela lemala, and its root of this godly soul is in the heavens. So what happens? You damage it here, and it's damaged upper world as well. So we're seeing we're damaging upper worlds as well. A person that goes over mitzvah lo ta'aseh damages his soul below and the part of his soul that's in the heavens above. Continues. You should know that I just should mention over here the mitzvot lo ta'aseh. Some of them have karet. We're not talking about those right now. Let's leave that to the side. We're talking about run-of-the-mill mitzvot lo ta'aseh, like a person who, like it says, somebody who ate non-kosher. Lo tochlu kol nevela. He ate kazayit from an unkosher animal, or an animal that wasn't shechted properly. He transgressed on a mitzvah lo ta'aseh. So what do we see over here? That a person that eats non-kosher damages what? Damages his neshama. Rabbi Nachman from Breslov says, you know, a lot of people when they do teshuvah, they always say, what should I do? Should I keep Shabbat? Should I keep tefillin? Should I do tefillin every day? Tell me, should I do shtay mikra v'echad targum? What's the first thing that you should do? Rabbi Nachman says, first you take care of the body, then you take care of the neshama. first you take care of kashrut. Eat kashrut, then deal with the neshama. First you have to take care of the physical, then the spiritual. And what he meant by that is eat kosher. Because when a person eats non-kosher, above and beyond the fact that he damages the neshama, but also he puts up klipot, these negative spiritual husks. So what happens? The guy is eating non-kosher food, and he sits in a Torah class. You know what happens? It goes in here, but it never enters here. You know why? Because here there's blockages. As long as he's eating that non-kosher pizza, that Torah doesn't go inside. As long as he's eating that fish in the non-kosher restaurant, the Torah is not going inside. It's entertainment. The rabbi is amazing. He's a great speaker. I love what he said. Mental gymnastics, right? It goes in here, never goes in here. If the person eats kosher for 30 days, what happens? The klipot go away, and the Torah permeates a person. It goes inside, and then it enters. So we see over here that one of the things that that the rabbi gave as an example is non-kosher food. More examples of mitzvot lo ta'aseh, non-kosher food. How about a person who's dishonest in his business? Lo ta'ashok et re'echa, meaning, let's say if he's an employer, he doesn't pay on time, or he's not only so he doesn't pay his employees. That's bad. That's a mitzvah lo ta'aseh. Even if he delayed his payment, it's a mitzvah lo ta'aseh. Icheret hazman tashuv shel maskoret lelo kol siba mutzdeket. It doesn't matter. U'avar al bal talin. So we see that also a person that doesn't pay his workers or doesn't pay his workers on time, he transgressed a mitzvah lo ta'aseh. Also, there's a mitzvah of lo tigzol. By the way, a mitzvah lo ta'aseh, like a quick little tip. Every time you see in the Torah it says lo, don't. That mitzvah lo ta'aseh. Because parents say, look, lo ta'ashok et re'echa. What's it? Lo tigzol. Lo tochlu kol nevela. You see, the word lo is like a key word that lets us know that we're dealing with mitzvah lo ta'aseh. So, for example, when a person comes to work late, right, that he comes to at 10 o'clock instead of at 8 o'clock, that's also stealing, right? Or if a person goes to work and he tells his co-worker, can you punch me in? Right? There's a lot of people that jobs that have punch cards, right? Before they had the fingerprints that they have nowadays, or the cameras, right? Back in the days, it said, punch me in, right? And his friend shows up every day, 7:59, he shows up 10:30. That's stealing. You can't do that. He says, not only is the guy that shows up late going to pay for being late, but also the guy who punched him in is also going to pay for stealing. Furthermore, even if it's for something mitzvah, if the guy says, no, you know, I'm late, I had a Torah class, I had to go bury somebody, they needed a 10th person for minyan, all that is good. Not on your employer's time. You want to be a tzaddik? You want to pick up all these mitzvot? Not on your boss's time. He's not supposed to pay while you're doing the mitzvot. Right? The guy can come back, I'm sorry, I had the Brit Milah. I'm sorry, I had to go be the 10th one in I pay you for work. I don't pay you to go be a tzaddik, with all due respect. Right? That's transgressing mitzvah lo ta'aseh. Sometimes we have good intentions, but at the end we're picking up gezel. And the rabbi says over here, even the things that are super connected to Torah, like learning or burying the dead or anything else, gezel gamu, it's a complete thievery. Why? Because he gets paid for, let's say for example, 8 hours of work, and he gave only 2 hours or 6 hours. So this is gazlan. And by the way, that type of money that a person earns through these types of situations, they don't have a bracha in it. And by bracha. And when he gets that money, he gets that money. He worked for 2 hours and he got paid for 8. You know what happens with that money that he earns dishonestly? Tipulim refu'im lo alenu. He says he's going to have to give it to a doctor, or he's going to have to give it to the body shop for the accident in the car, or any types of problems. Why? Because the money that comes in the way of thievery or comes through a way of gezel, even when it's not done the right way, what happens? Hashem says that money has to go somewhere else. Where? To to all those things. So sometimes those things happen, and it happens. It's a common thing that happens to people. You have to stop and say, wait, is my money kosher? Do I have kosher money? Am I earning properly? Because why am I paying for this root canal? Is it all the candy that I ate, or is it some sort of like unkosher money? Why is the car dented? Why is it? You have to think. You have lepashpesh b'ma'asav. That's what we said. Teshuvah. One word in the next section. It's called Veshav. What's Veshav? Veshav is the root word of the word Teshuvah. And come back. That what? When a person does Teshuvah, maybe he has some sort of a zechut. What's a zechut? Imagine doing Teshuvah is a real zechut. Imagine when a person is completely on the other side of Judaism, and all of a sudden he feels like he wants to come back. It's a gift. It's a gift. Maybe somebody told him, hey, you're on the wrong track, come back. Maybe he pressed play on a YouTube video and some rabbi gave him like something that like, oh my God. Or maybe he came to a Brit Milah and the rabbi gave a Dvar Torah, or whatever it is. So we see over here that the Teshuvah is a zchut. Because why? When he's able to learn Torah, he's able to learn how grave his sins are. And he begins to understand how bad it is to pay workers late, how bad it is to cheat, how bad it is to do fraud, how bad it is to sell cars that are not working properly, how bad it is to sell a house without a proper deed, which is some of the things that some people do. Some people do a lot of crazy things in order to make money. But if he doesn't hear a Torah lesson that tells him, hey, you need to stay away from all this, he might just go about it. And he thinks that atoning for it would be what? Right? How will you atone for it? When it comes to Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, when everybody thinks about doing bad, you know what, the shul, take $10,000. Oh, you know what, let me move the curtain for $50,000. Oh, let me carry the Torah. Oh, let me buy an aliyah. Oh, let me buy the Haftara Yonah. You think that dissolves your dirty hands from stealing? So you steal from here and you give it to the shul. You think the shul is going to, is waiting for that money? Who knows what maybe the shul buy toilet paper with all that money that you're giving. That's what it's good for. But in reality, that you can't. The Masechet Brachot says you can't chop off people's head in the market and then put them on the table, on the Shabbat table for people to eat. Meaning what? You can't chop off people's heads, meaning taking money from people dishonestly, go buy the best fish, go buy the best wine, go buy the best bread, and put it on your Shabbat table and say, hey, look family, look how I honor Shabbat. No. How did you get the money to honor Shabbat? Can't do that. And a person should know that when it comes to Gezel, a person not only needs to return what he stole, but also has to make amends with the person that he stole from. Because in Baba Metzia, on the 59th page, on the first side, it says, Shlosha ed hapargod nin'al bifnehem. He says there's three people that the Hashem's special place in the heavens doesn't open up for them. Ona'ah, gezel, v'avodah zarah. Ona'ah is somebody who does fraud, deceit, deception. Gezel is thievery. Avodah zarah is idolatry. Anybody who has those three under his belt, you're not going to go very far in the heavens at all. Talks a lot more over here about Gezel. Even talks about the Rashi Kolelim, the people that that hold Torah learners. And when they don't pay the Torah learners, the Avrichim, on time, they're also going to have to answer that under the guise of Gezel, stealing from them. Why? Not paying them on time, not paying them the right amount. It's not an easy job. If you're not able to pay people on the same at the time that you're supposed to pay them, it's better you tell them, I can't hire you. I can't be with you. Go find somewhere else. Go get a job somewhere else. Go to a different kollel. Why? Because think about that Rosh Kollel. That guy who's running the yeshiva, he's a tzaddik, he wants to do good. All of a sudden he shows up to the shamayim and tells them, okay, show us who you are. Oh, look at all my students. Oh, look at all the mitzvot. Oh, no. We're not talking about that. Look at all the time you delayed payment. We want to talk to you about all the time you delayed payment and all the sorrow that caused. Here it's called gezel. And gezel, Masachet Baba Metzia says, ona'ah, gezel, v'avodah zarah, those three, you don't go to the higher levels. I run a kollel. I'm a Rosh Yeshiva. Yeah, but you have gezel under your belt. How careful we have to be. That's why I said it's very, very good that we have these concepts in the front of our mind all the time.
Lavan was very bad with Jacob in that sense.
Yes? Yes. So it continues to say that person has to be very careful also with businesses where there's a lot of gray area, right? Real estate, a lot of gray area. People that do money lending, a lot of gray area. What happens with real estate? You know, you present the property as such. It's not like that. The guy moves in, there's termites, the guy moves in, all of a sudden he has to change the roof. Oh, you said like this, you said like that. It's this price or that price. It's not. They sell a house, all of a sudden there's a lien over here, and of course there's all these processes that there's to protect, but there are some horror stories over there in the real estate world. And there's a lot of horror stories over there when people sell cars. The car business, the guy said, it's a perfect car. 2 weeks later he's in the shop, and he's been in the shop for 2 months. So imagine a guy getting a brand new car with all the money that he has. Now he needs more money just to fix the car that he just got, and he hasn't had a car for 2. Imagine how it snowballs. Jewelry, 14 karat, 18 karat, real diamond, clear diamond, not clear diamond. I'm giving general examples of how people are in the trade, and later on you show up in the shamayim, you're a tzaddik, you buy aliyah every Shabbat. Yeah, but look what you picked up on your day-to-day business doings. The rabbi highlighted here very much so and gave a lot of different examples. I'm just skimming through it. But the last thing that he says, that it's very, very important also not to owe money. That a person should not leave this world while he owes money. Because when a person has to owe money, even if he has to forego Torah classes or even praying in minyan or anything like that, it's just so there's nothing, you don't show up to the shamayim with things that have to do with money. Because why? He has to pay a lot for it in the next world. Just wanted to put that point over here as we move to the final section of the second pasuk in the second line in the Tanya. Teshuvah tola v'yom hakippur mechaper. And with this we'll conclude. We said that when a person does teshuvah, it delays, and Yom Kippur atones. Again, we're talking about negative commandments. When a person transgresses a mitzvah lo ta'aseh, and he does teshuvah, the teshuvah delays and Yom Kippur atones. Let's go deeper. When a person does a mitzvah lo ta'aseh, he transgresses a mitzvah lo ta'aseh, and he does teshuvah. Teshuvah is only step one. It's not the final step. Meaning what? The guy says, I promise to never eat and to never not eat and do Birkat Hamazon. And he takes it upon himself. He says, there's not going to be a day that I'm not going to put on tefillin. And he does with himself. She continues to say, from now on, I'm lighting the Shabbat candles. And she's always lighting the Shabbat candles. This teshuvah process is only phase one. It's only 50% of the work. And all it does is it delays the person from getting punished in order for him to finish the kapara. In order for him to get to Yom Kippur. So let's just say we are right now in Tevet. We're about 8 months away from Yom Kippur. So the lady says, from now on, I'm lighting the Shabbat candles no matter what. You better keep it going for 8 months, because only 50% is atoned. The other 50% is when you have to wait for Yom Kippurim. So you almost have to be super attentive on that mitzvah that you said that you're going to get into, because if it's a mitzvah lo ta'aseh and you did teshuvah, only 50% is done. And the result of the teshuvah is that delays the punishment. And what you have to do is you have to wait for Yom Kippurim to come so you can atone for the entire thing. Otherwise, if you don't do it in that 8 months, for example, you don't light the Shabbat candles again, or a guy forgets to put on tefillin again, he's back in the danger zone. You're back in the danger zone. All of a sudden the sin is back alive. So you have to know that there's a process where even though you're doing teshuvah, you have to stick to it, because only after you pass Yom Kippurim, it's completely done. What happens the following year? Hopefully you score 100. But if not, same process. 50-50. Delay, wait for Yom Kippurim.
But that's for lo ta'aseh.
Correct.
But if it is, for instance, lighting the candles, and she says that she's going to do it from here on out, and she doesn't do it, but the shuvah is that she's going to do it, so it's an immediate pardon.
In mitzvah lo ta'aseh, it's only 50%. The other 50% is Yom Kippur.
Yeah,
Mitzvah ta'aseh is immediate.
But that's what it is. She's not lighting the candles, and she's from now on, I'm going to light the candles. That's immediate. That's
her action.
That's
But,
an action.
right, but it doesn't change the status of that mitzvah. A mitzvah lo ta'aseh has its own status, its own rules, and its own procedure. You can't mix the two. The mitzvah ta'aseh has immediate. Only mitzvah ta'aseh. When you're in this section, you can only do a teshuvah that will delay the process, and you have to wait for Yom Kippurim.
But mitzvah ta'aseh is lighting the candles.
Mitzvah.
It doesn't say don't light the candles. It says light the candles.
I'm sorry. You're right. You're right. We're talking about lighting the candles is from the section of mitzvah aseh. You're correct. I used the wrong example. We'll talk about eating non-kosher.
Oh, that's a different story.
Thank you for correcting me. The person is eating non-kosher. The person not eating non-kosher did teshuvah, no problem. Now you gotta wait 8 more months until Yom Kippur to get the full atonement on your teshuvah on the eating non-kosher. To get the full atonement on the teshuvah that you did on stealing. Finally, why is it that we have to wait for Yom Kippur? What is so unique about Yom Kippur? And why is it that only then it's finally rectified? What's so special about it? It's because on that day, Hashem, He's the only one. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the only one that works on that day. On Yom Kippurim, it's written in the Yerushalmi that when the time comes to give the final judgment for everyone, there's a bat call, there's a voice in the heaven that comes out and says, Hotziu kol ish me'alai. Everybody out. I want to be here by myself. And asur lo lemarchet zechut velo marchet chovat daber. And no prosecuting angels or defense angels have the permission to speak. Ela rak Hashem yitbarach Hashem levado bodek et ha'maasim. At that moment, only Hashem by Himself, no interruptions, checks everything, checks the teshuvah process the people did. Shekol echad ve'echad machlit ketzad lachtom oto. To know really what each one did without the noise of the prosecuting attorney, without the noise of the defense attorney. Let me check the person's heart. Let me see what they did properly. And then He gives a final decree of Yom Kippur. This is very heavy, but we have to say it. He says, but if Yom Kippurim comes and that person continues on his transgression and he didn't do the proper work to rectify, Bashamayim lo nimchal lo shum lav. The mitzvot lo ta'aseh don't get wiped out. If he doesn't do a proper teshuvah process on the mitzvot lo ta'aseh, Bashamayim lo nimchal lo shum lav. They carry over. So, if we were used to the idea, this generic idea of we do teshuvah and everything is forgiven, which I'm sure is still a true statement, because there are certain teshuvot processes that really are so genuine and so real that are able to wipe out everything. However, when we go through the lens, and that's what I want everyone to focus on, we have a lens on. We have the lens of the Tanya, the lens of Igeret Teshuvah. So we want to think on this lens. We could bring in a lot of different ideas and a lot of different things that we've learned in the past, but it's not relevant because we're not trying to learn that. We're not trying to compare that. We're trying to learn Rav Shneor Zalman Miladi, his lens, the Tanya's lens on Teshuvah. And over here, we're understanding on a much, much deeper level the mechanics in the heavens of how it works and how Hashem interacts with us in the heavens. And that there's a real judgment, not a cookie cutter judgment, not a run of the mill. It's not like, like Hashem just like appeases everybody. Yeah, go, you're my son, I love you, go. It's more intricate than that. It's more detailed than that. And it should be. Because that's what a true judge is. A true judge looks at the tzedek ve'emet. The rabbi gives us an example, and with this I'll conclude. He says there's a big crook that he was able to trick not only people, but even the judges that are judging him in the court. And he has an excellent attorney. And he doesn't get convicted. He gets off scot-free. And that's in the worldly court, right? Comes Yom Kippur, he feels great about himself. He buys a new talit, he buys ptichat ha'echal, he buys kol nidreh for a lot of money. He buys the maftir yonah, and he thinks that he did teshuvah, and he thinks that by giving all this money that he earned crookedly, he's sort of like appeasing God. Like, look, I earned the way that I earned, and even in the worldly court, I was able to finagle it some way, somehow. And look, I'm even giving you a share. Here's a little bit of that money. Here's maftir yonah. Here, open the curtain. The big shots. It says, but the truth, lo yo'il lo me'uma litchamek ma'onesh. He says, up in the heavens, nothing is going to help him to get out of the punishment. Why? Asur להשאיר את האדם הזה בעולם, הוא מסוכן לאיכות הסביבה, אדם רע ובליעל. He is a menace to society. Because if he's doing that and getting off scot-free and coming to shul and acting like that, everybody's going to copy-paste. They're going to look at him and says, me too. I also want to be a crook. I also want to be a convict and buy yonah. I also want to be a crook and carry the most expensive Sefer Torah in the high holidays. He says you can't leave that example amongst the community. Because why? Because as you'll see, and the rabbi's giving examples that he's witnessed himself. He says, don't be amazed that after you see somebody in shul, like, oh my God, look at this guy, what a tzaddik! Look at his talit, the best Swarovski crystals. Oh, look how much he spends over here in Yom Kippur. He dropped at least $150,000. What a tzaddik! He's keeping the shul alive. And then, like a couple of weeks later, there's a truck that hits his Mercedes and he's gone. Oh, why? The tzaddik died. The tzaddik died. Only Hashem knows if he's a tzaddik or if he's not a tzaddik. Only Hashem knows. That's why we know that when it comes to Yom Kippur is not child's play. It's a real judgment of what Hashem judging the world. And that's why we have Elul, and that's why we have TANYA IGERET TESHUVAH, and that's why we have the 40 days of preparation with the month of Elul in order to get a good psak din. But it's up to us to do the right teshuvah process. As you can see, Rav Yoram, he doesn't mince words. He's shared a lot of like real life scenarios, and these real life scenarios, I don't know if it did it for you, but it did for me. It wakes us up. If we were sleepwalking through life, Igeret Teshuvah is a wake up call. And just FYI, we just started dabbling in the low level teshuvah. And just so you guys know, we only did 2 lines of the Igeret Teshuvah today. Next week, maybe we'll do 2 more lines. But look how much depth. Look how many layers we learned in just 2 lines of Tanya. Look how our eyes just opened up to the teshuvah process like never before. And I'm going to tell you, I consider myself a teshuvah pro. I felt like I knew what I was doing. I'm a complete novice. After reading these two lines over here, after understanding what Masechet Yomah is talking about, after understanding how teshuvah works, the delay, now I understand why there is Isurim. Now I understand that why Yom Kippur is so important to get tapped into. How can people really just show up to Yom Kippur just to hear the shofar? They're so missing the point. They have no idea how they're shooting themselves in the foot. Thank God that they're there. Maybe they'll hear a rabbi. They'll wake up the teshuvah in their heart, and they'll come back and they'll do a proper teshuvah. But we're right now going through an awakening, a real new way of seeing life through the lens of the Tanya, through the lens of Igeret Teshuvah. And I do believe this is going to be a transformative year for us. And I'll tell you why. If this is going to be escorting us for the next 12 months or the next 8 months up until Yom Kippurim, surely we're going to walk in a different product into shul by the end of this year. We'll know more, we'll understand more, and we'll know how to activate more. This is a good thing. Don't be scared. Be happy. Yom Kippur is a holiday. It's a day of atonement. Now we're going to learn how to use it properly. And we also know how to manage ourselves. We also know how to, go through Judaism properly. Because we get so put off by that number 613. It's overwhelming. 613, right? Well, a lot of just so you know, a lot of it has to do with mitzvot that pertain to the land of Israel, from the diaspora. A lot of the mitzvot have to do with the fact of Bet HaMikdash being built. We don't have that. We're down to half. 613 became about 300, right? Certain things you're not going to be able to fulfill. Not everybody's going to get married. Not everybody's going to get divorced. Not everybody's going to have a boy. Not everybody's going to have a girl. Certain mitzvot that are connected to certain things. So when you come down to it, I think there's even a book that details how many mitzvot are just really relevant to our day-to-day. It's in the range of between 120 to 170 the last time I checked, depending on if you're male, female, Kohen, Israel, stuff like that. So out of those less than 200, we should be able to manage the aseh and lo ta'aseh. Shouldn't be that difficult. We just need to learn it. And you can literally say, you know what? These are the ones that I'm really staying away from. And these are the ones that I'm going to play defense on. And there's these ones that are high voltage. Don't even talk to me.
But it seems like it is complete in a way when you do the teshuvah, but the level at which you perform things and don't perform things seems to change with your level of attention and kavanah, because that is constantly, hopefully, deepening.
Absolutely.
So that the process is just continuing every year.
Absolutely. And this is the beginning of the class. Simcha, right?
Yeah.
That's the beginning of the class. That what? We're going to get so good at deciphering a mitzvah taseh to mitzvah lo taseh, and we're going to get so good at doing teshuvah on it or staying away from them. We're going to get so good at it that we're going to say, okay, I got this. And then what happens?
You don't.
No, you do. You do.
Well, you do in a way, but...
And no, you said, but you constantly...
But your arrogance...
No, well, don't take it there yet. Don't take it there. You said something good. You said we keep getting better and better. We keep growing.
Right.
So that's the point. Once you get to the point that you're growing so much and you're excelling so much at this teshuvah del tata, what happens? Teshuvah del ela.
Yeah.
Then you start working on giving your soul to HaKadosh Baruch Hu the way you got it. So you hit the nail on the head. We're going to get so good at it. You're going to do teshuvah. You're going to get better at it. You're going to keep growing. You're going to keep fixing. That at one point you got it. Then what happens? I'm growing. I'm growing. I'm growing.
It's just
You
another
graduate
level of-
another level, and the other level is okay. Now that I've done everything on the physical, how do I return this neshama that Hashem deposited in me, clean like the day He gave it to me? Could you imagine? Not only that, who even thought about that as a goal? What a lofty goal to have in life. Imagine that one of the goals in life, hashtag goals, right? That one of the goals that you have in life is to give your neshama back to Kadosh Baruch Hu the way that He gave it to you. Who had that? Who woke up this morning thinking like that? But tomorrow we will be, or at least after a few classes, or in a year or 2 or 3 or 10 years from now, that'll be our focus. Why? Because we'll be Hebes. You know what's a Heb? A highly elevated being. We'll be able to be so elevated as Hebrews, right? That we'll be what? We'll be focused on that. And that's the whole thing. We're just so desensitized from our real goal, our real mission in this world, that we're like kids playing in a sandbox. You know, we got to grow up. We got to get to that higher spiritual level that Hashem intended for us. We are the paradigm. You know, the true example of Tselem Elokim. To act like God in a human form. So it takes some work. It takes some focus. And B'ezrat Hashem, if we stick together and we learn together, we'll be able to achieve it. And I'm super excited because this is really stepping up your spiritual game. Mamash. Pun. Mamash.
Thank you.